Heated rivalry begins when our two star-crossed lovers meet for the first time, with Ilya smoking a cigarette as Shane introduces himself, though the introduction is tainted by the fact that Ilya's team loses the hockey game. Months later, Shane signs with Montreal, while Ilya joins their biggest rivals, the Boston Raiders. Ilya is the ultimate asshole of the league, constantly talking trash and acting like he doesn't have a care in the world, whereas Shane is the responsible, timid rookie whose mother has a mountain of expectations for his career. The two cross paths again at the gym, where they try to outdo each other on the treadmills, only to eventually collapse in exhaustion and share a drink of water. The sexual tension between them is off the charts, yet nothing official happens until 6 months later, when they're paired up for a commercial. Ilya specifically requests Shane for the shoot, and wastes no time asking for his room number, leading to their first hookup. Shane is still very much in the closet, and terrified of anyone finding out, but he can't help being drawn to Ilya's cocky attitude, finding the whole situation amusingly cute. The media works overtime to fabricate a vicious rivalry, since both players are at the top of their game. They're eventually set up for a joint interview where they're supposed to talk smack about each other, but instead spend the entire time secretly playing footsie under the table. Once the cameras are off, they fall back into each other's arms, and since this is Shane's first real experience with a guy, they make plans to meet up at their next game in Montreal. They even go as far as exchanging numbers saved under female aliases to keep their secret safe. Unfortunately, a bout of bad weather ruins their rendezvous and leaves them unable to connect. The tension finally comes to a head at an awards ceremony, where Shane wins Rookie of the Year, sending Ilya into a depressive spiral. Ilya is under massive pressure from his father to succeed, while his brother only ever reaches out to ask for money, so he retreats to the rooftop to sulk. Shane finds him there and blows up, hurt that Ilya can't just be happy for his success, unaware that Ilya is actually mourning the end of the hockey season. With the season over, Ilya has to return to a home life he clearly despises, and although Ilya tries to placate Shane with a kiss, the moment is ruined when Shane becomes more terrified of being seen in public than enjoying what they share. The digital flirting keeps the sparks flying as they text back and forth, and things get so intense that their teammates actually catch them blushing. Of course, the guys just assume they're talking to girls, but the risk level spikes when Ilya decides to send Shane a pre-game sext. It's a highly unusual move that catches Shane off guard, and while he contemplates ignoring it, he loves Ilya's spontaneity. It's the perfect spice for his overly structured and perfect life, so even though he later chastises Ilya for leaving him with a boner on the ice, Ilya just likes getting under his skin and finds the whole thing hilarious. However, the honeymoon phase hits a wall months later when Ilya suffers a devastating loss in his home country of Russia. He shuts down completely and begins ignoring Shane's texts, and when Shane tries to check on him, Ilya is uncharacteristically mean. Ilya decides to ghost him entirely to focus on his game, and while the strategy works because he plays brilliantly in his next match, it almost brings Shane to tears just watching him. It's official that the man is in love and hurting. They eventually cross paths at another award show where they are both scheduled to present, and Ilya acts as if nothing ever happened. He's perfectly cool, and even poses for a picture with Shane on stage, despite having ignored him for months. Feeling suffocated, Shane heads to the bathroom to catch his breath, but Ilya follows him inside. When Shane demands to know what he wants after being so wishy-washy, Ilya bluntly tells him he wants him to get on his knees, because he isn't looking for a conversation. Shane is still angry enough to refuse him in the moment, but his resolve doesn't last long, and he eventually drops by Ilya's hotel room anyway. They have a great time together, yet the mood sours the second the conversation turns back to Russia and Ilya's impending trip home for the summer. It's clearly a sore spot for Ilya, and the atmosphere becomes so awkward that Shane makes a quick exit under the guise of an appointment. By the time he reaches the elevator, Shane is already regretting how they left things, and he even starts typing a text to Ilya about how they didn't even kiss goodbye, but he quickly deletes it. He's fallen so hard that he's losing his own sense of composure. It turns out Shane and Ilya aren't the only ones dealing with the cost of staying closeted for their careers, as we soon meet Scott Hunter, the superstar veteran captain of the New York Admirals. While grabbing a smoothie, Scott finds himself seductively eyeing the attendant, Kip, who recommends a blueberry and banana blend that Scott genuinely enjoys. Kip has no idea he's serving a legend, until a fanboy starts gushing over Scott after he walks out, and from that moment on, Kip starts following hockey just to see him play on TV. While Kip remains uncertain about Scott's feelings, his coworker and friend is convinced that the superstar is hooked, especially since Scott makes it a habit to return for that specific smoothie and leave Kip incredibly fat tips. Their connection deepens when Scott visits town on Kip's day off, but Kip picks up the shift anyway and ends up with an invitation to watch Scott play. Scott even acknowledges Kip's presence from the ice, which Kip's friend finds highly amusing, but the game itself doesn't go as planned. Scott loses to Shane, who has clearly been picking up some asshole habits from Ilya, leading to a heated taunt and a full-blown fight between the two captains on the court. Despite the professional drama, Kip and Scott cross paths again at a dinner party where Kip is working as a server, and after Kip accidentally spills food on him, Scott invites him to eat out after his shift. When they find the restaurant line is far too long, they decide to head back to Scott's place, and the night naturally transitions into something much more intimate. The morning after is filled with raw vulnerability as Scott pours his heart out, admitting he's never yearned for anyone like Kip and wishes he could come home to him every day, though he makes it clear they have to keep things hidden until he retires in a few years. Their honeymoon phase is incredibly sweet, yet the reality of their secret life hits a wall when Kip invites Scott to an art gallery. Scott completely freaks out and bolts, fearing that the media would easily put two and two together if they were spotted together. While Kip is understanding enough to hold Scott while he breaks down, the constant lying is starting to crush his spirit, particularly because he can't even share his happiness with his loving father. Even though Kip's friend Elena manages to deduce the relationship, she doesn't hold back when she meets Scott at a dinner, telling him flatly that Kip deserves much better than a life lived in the shadows. Kip is too in love to leave, and he even gives Scott a pair of blueberry and banana socks as a lucky charm, which Scott wears to every game as his performance begins to soar. However, things reach a breaking point when Kip asks Scott to attend his birthday party at a gay bar just as a friend. Scott's fear of being outed won't let him go, causing Kip to finally retreat to his father's house and break down in his arms in one of the most heartbreaking moments of the story. Scott ends up watching the celebration from the shadows, unable to join in because hockey, the only thing he's had since his parents died when he was 12, is just too important to lose. Yet he still wears those blueberry and banana socks as a silent tether to the man he loves. The lovebirds Ilya and Shane are texting nonstop, and both of their careers are soaring, especially Shane's, as he secures 2 championship cups. They continue to hook up between games whenever they can, but the distance grows at the end of the summer when Ilya heads back to Russia to party, while Shane hangs back with his friend Hayden, who is aggressively trying to set him up with a girl. By now, all of their friends have noticed how obsessively they text Lily and Jane, but everyone assumes they're talking to women, not realizing that these female aliases are actually each other. The dynamic shifts during their next hookup when Ilya finally asks Shane to stay the night, instead of rushing off like he usually does. Ilya even goes as far as stocking his house with tuna melt and ginger ale, which are Shane's favorites. Man has been paying serious attention, but the romantic atmosphere is shattered by a frantic call from Ilya's father, who is suffering from dementia and having a breakdown. Ilya's brother is supposed to be his paid caregiver, yet he is nowhere to be found, so Ilya has to handle the family crisis before he can return to his night with Shane. However, the emotional intimacy of the evening freaks Shane out because he realizes they are moving into real relationship territory, and he suddenly halts everything. He ends up projecting his internal panic onto his parents when they invite him to a Rolex party, and while he snaps at them, they simply assume it's the pressure of the hockey season rather than emotional turmoil. Looking for a distraction, Shane heads to a teammate's party and meets a famous actress named Rose, and the two of them hit it off almost instantly. The internet explodes with the news, and when Ilya sees it, he nearly loses his mind with rage, even accidentally stubbing his toe. To make matters worse, Rose shows up to Shane's game against Ilya's team wearing Shane's jersey, and the media officially dubs them the new power couple. After Ilya's team suffers a loss on top of that public humiliation, he begins to spiral, and decides to go on a massive bender to forget his troubles. In a twist of fate, Ilya ends up at the same party where Shane is hanging out with Rose and her rather touchy-feely gay best friend. Rose and her friend definitely have some weird energy going on, because why is he leaning way into Shane like that? Shane eventually excuses himself from the group and spots Ilya across the room, but instead of a heartfelt reunion, Ilya decides to choose violence and puts on a raunchy, public show with a woman at the bar just to make Shane jealous. This episode has to be the most emotional and loving episode ever. After the messy circus Ilya put on at the party, Shane heads home with Rose, but their relationship quickly fizzles out because she realizes their spark just isn't there. Shane finally finds the courage to admit to himself and to her that he actually prefers men, and Rose proves to be an absolute gem by offering her friendship and support, since she knows he has nobody else to talk to about his sexuality. The stakes shift when Shane and Ilya meet again for an all-star game and have to play on the same team for the first time ever. Ilya is visibly jealous of Shane's improved fashion sense because he assumes it is all for Rose, but Shane clears the air by revealing he hired a stylist and is officially single again. They eventually retreat to Ilya's hotel room for the serious conversation they've been avoiding, where Shane admits he bolted last time because he realized he wasn't just curious, but is actually gay and really likes Ilya. Ilya struggles to reciprocate the L word, because being out would mean losing his ability to return to Russia and being disowned by his traditional family, but Shane finally gets him to open up about his late mother. This leads to a beautiful, vulnerable moment where Ilya breaks down in Shane's arms and lets him in completely for the very first time. However, the high of their connection is followed by a tragic low when Ilya goes MIA and misses the team's trip to Nevada. A worried Shane frantically tries to reach him, only to learn days later that Ilya's father has passed away. Ilya travels back for the burial, where his deadbeat brother tries to cause a scene because he's terrified the caregiver money will stop now that their father is gone. Ilya is ready to throw hands until his old friend Svetlana steps in to de-escalate the situation. In a final act of family duty, Ilya hands over his apartment to his brother and sets up a trust fund for his niece. Svetlana clearly loves Ilya, but she understands that she isn't who he wants right now. She knows Jane is the person he needs, and she knows Jane is a man, though it's unclear if she realizes that man is Shane. Exhausted and grieving, Ilya calls Shane but finds himself too stressed to even speak English, so Shane tells him to just speak Russian. In a gut-wrenching monologue, Ilya pours his heart out about his guilt of not taking care of his dad before his death, and his resentment toward his leech of a brother, while also confessing that he is deeply in love with Shane. Since Shane doesn't understand a word of Russian, Ilya gets the relief of a confession without the immediate fear of the consequences, which allows him to revert back to his usual taunting, funny self. The drama moves back to the ice, where Shane gets so distracted looking at his boo during a game that he gets knocked out cold. Ilya's mask slips as he shows visible concern for his supposed rival, and even visits Shane in the hospital later that night. Shane is high on pain meds and being adorable while suggesting they spend the holidays together at his cottage, and a hesitant Ilya finally promises to think about it. Their moment is hilariously interrupted by a nurse who thinks Ilya is there to smother him because of their online rivalry, but the real shocker comes from the New York Admirals game. With Shane out and Ilya also sustaining an injury, Scott Hunter leads his team to victory and beckons on Kip to come to the rink before giving him a kiss and confessing his love for him in front of the entire world. I literally screamed my lungs out and cried so much. Such a loving and emotional scene. Everyone, including Shane's parents, are dumbfounded, and this incredible display of courage from Scott is exactly what Ilya needed to see, as it finally gives him the push to agree to the weekend getaway with Shane. After Hunter came out, a weight has been lifted off his shoulders as he publicly dedicates the award he is receiving to Kip. Kip is super blushing while watching him on TV, and our favorite couple is officially goals. Now we get to the cottage business, with Shane picking Ilya up in his boring car, according to Ilya, and they head straight to the cottage. Shane had told his parents he was on a silent retreat because he doesn't want to be disturbed. The second they arrive, Ilya is ready to jump Shane's bones because it has been way too long. Shane is caught off guard by Ilya's eagerness, and also by the revelation that the resident ladies' man Ilya hasn't been with anyone since the last time they were together. After a little taunting where Shane also reveals he hasn't been with anyone, they move to the room where Shane makes them promise to be honest with their feelings all through their stay at the cottage. Before the real fun begins, Shane tries to be a gentleman and close the blinds for privacy, but Ilya is ever the exhibitionist and insists on leaving them wide open. After the main event, Shane decides to whip up some burgers. However, because he is Shane, he follows an 8-person recipe to the letter instead of just having it. Naturally, they end up with a mountain of burgers to mow down while they talk about life. Ilya jokes that Shane got his beauty from his mom and his boring personality from his dad, but the mood shifts when a bird starts making a noise that sounds suspiciously like a wolf. Ilya is scared senseless, but Shane is right there to placate him. This leads to a heavy moment where Ilya opens up about finding his mom after she committed suicide when he was only 12. It is a rare, vulnerable glimpse into his past, and Shane provides the comfort he desperately needs. By the next morning, the I like yous are flying, but the sweetness is quickly interrupted by a phone call from Hayden. Ilya, being Ilya, decides to ruin Shane's call by going down on him right then and there. Shane tries to act like he hates the bad boy behavior, but we all know he is secretly into it. Shane points out that while it started as just being bad, it has officially morphed into something much deeper now. The drama ramps up when Ilya mentions his contract with Boston is ending. He wants a new passport, and is considering marrying Svetlana for American citizenship. Shane is immediately against this and asks why Ilya doesn't just find a woman he actually loves, since he is bisexual. Ilya drops the ultimate heart melter by saying that would be hard, because he is constantly thinking about a boring hockey player with beautiful freckles. Shane is near tears and tells Ilya not to marry Svetlana because they will figure it out. He couldn't even sleep well because early the next morning he already has a solution. Ilya signs with a Canadian team in Ottawa. They are rivals but not as deep as Boston and Montreal, so they can't keep expecting them to hate each other. They start a foundation together, which can explain why they are seen together. And they could say working together made them respect each other and stop being enemies. They will apply for citizenship later and become lovers when they retire. Ilya is so hyped, he accidentally lets an I love you slip. He starts to freak out, but Shane catches him with an I love you right back. It is a fun-filled day for the couples until Shane's dad returns to the cottage unannounced because he forgot his charger and walks right in on his son and his supposed rival kissing. He immediately drives away, and the boys have to follow him like teenagers called to the principal's office. Shane is spiraling because his easing them in plan just went out the window, but they face the music together. Shane tells his parents he is gay, and Ilya helpfully announces they are lovers. The mom is confused because she thought they hated each other, but Shane's dad wins the award for the best reaction by basically asking if there really wasn't one good man in Montreal and why Ilya of all people. Despite the shock, the parents are surprisingly welcoming. They always sensed Shane was gay, though they are a bit dumbfounded that these two have been hooking up since their rookie years. Shane's mom finds it sad they plan to wait until retirement to be happy, and she is even blushing while watching Ilya comfort Shane and claim the boyfriend title with a kiss. The emotional climax hits when Shane follows his mom outside to apologize for disappointing her. In a beautiful moment, she apologizes to him for not creating a space where he felt safe enough to tell her sooner. Of course, the second they get back inside, she flips into manager mode and starts pitching brand ideas. Shane has to quickly remind her that he is not coming out to the public just yet. The season wraps up with the interrogation over, and the boys heading back to the cottage. The parents are already planning to drop by with beer and food later, though the kids insist they text first so they don't get caught in any more compromising positions. This was the first major hurdle for our boys, and honestly, if they can survive a wolf bird and a surprise dad visit, they can survive anything. I have fallen head over heels for this show, and I did not see it coming in any capacity. It's just so lovely. The love, the tenderness. You can actually feel how much they care about each other through the screen. This show didn't just tell me I was lonely, it called me single, solo, and unaccompanied in about 1,000 different languages. I genuinely believe this show has the power to change minds because it portrays gay relationships with such beauty and authenticity. If you have a friend who is a bit stuck in their ways or harbors some homophobic thoughts, you should probably sit them down and force them to watch this immediately. It is hard to stay prejudiced when you are faced with a love story this pure, and it might just make them see the world in a completely different light. I am officially starting the petition for 10 more seasons right now because I cannot wait to see where this goes.